Hello. What's going on, everybody? Your boy, Peeps here. I'm back. I'm actually going to do a little bit more of a off-the-cuff video right now. Just one of these that I ramble at the camera and let the editor do the work. Hey, thanks, Adam. I wanted to discuss the upcoming ban list that we are likely to get pretty soon for the TCG format, and I wanted to do this in the vein of a true, honest-to-God prediction. No wish listing here. I have theorized what they're going to do on this ban list, and I'm pretty confident in my predictions here, and I'm going to give some reasonings why. Some of this stuff you're going to look at, and you're going to be like, what the heck are you talking about with these? But I really want to explain my thoughts and why I think this is the direction that Konami is going to go for this ban list. So, first and foremost, before we really get into the actual list here, I want to talk about how I'm formulating my thoughts here. During the last ban list, which is when, at time of recording, Original Sinful Spoils got banned. Also, I'm already, I guess you could already make fun of me if you want to, commenters. I'm already 0-1 in terms of what my predictions were. My first overall prediction was that this list was going to drop in YCS Vegas. I thought it was going to be revealed in YCS Vegas because many people thought that Konami was going to move towards releasing lists during live streamed events, and I thought Vegas was going to be live streamed a while ago. Made sense for it too, but they didn't do that. There we go. I'm already losing in terms of predictions here. So, but I can guess that they're going to do it either soon or they'll do it during another revealed event at YCS Austin. Neither here nor there. But during the last ban list, I had a theory about what they were trying to do in terms of like shaping the format, right? I was pretty impressed with myself because I think I nailed down what philosophy they were going for. I was predicting that they were going to do bans and other adjustments to the card pool that were going to push the game towards a surefire Ryzeal Malice format. I thought they really wanted to emulate the direction that the OCG had gone. Not necessarily with the same card pool, but with the same landscape of the metagame. I thought that is exactly what they wanted to do, and I called it. I thought that the best way to do that was to ban Original Sinful Spoils. I made that call. A lot of people were thinking that they were going to do Flamberge because banning Flamberge instead of Original would have allowed other fire decks to still like have kind of a place, but I thought they wanted to just move away from those decks and go to a different landscape of the game. I think they realized that a lot of people were very frustrated with the gameplay loops that the Wanted engine with Original Sinful Spoils did with a lot of meta decks, and I was right. I called that. I will shout from the rooftops, woohoo, I called it, yay. I get to own that, darn it. But I also made a lot of calls that were not correct. Now, I admitted at the time that those were kind of pie-in-the-sky hits. I called that Shifter would be hit on the last one. When I tweeted that out, I didn't post this on YouTube, but when I tweeted that out, I was like, no, this is cope, but they might. I'm not doing that this time. All of these predictions, I have full reasonings and belief that these are the things that are going to get hit. So let's dive in. Let's talk more about philosophy. When we look at a ban list, I think you always have to evaluate business over balance, okay? Now, there is going to be balance there too, and I do actually give the TCG ban list team a lot of credit when it comes to how they design ban lists in terms of balance in mind, but I really believe that the first and foremost thing you have to evaluate when it comes to a ban list prediction is the business side of things. I don't think they're going to hit any cards that have not yet had a reprint. I think Ryzeal, Malice, and Fiend Smith cards are flexible in how they can be used for other archetypes rather than just pure variants. So I don't think they want to hit them directly. I think there's going to be hits that hit the ancillary things that those decks use to further themselves as part of the top of the metagame. But I don't think any of those cards in name are going to get hit directly, okay? So I think, like, especially with Fiend Smith, like Engraver and stuff, I don't think they're going to hit those because it was a core set secret rare chase card. They can still make a lot of money off of that with reprints. Don't think they're going to hit that directly. Again, we'll get there when we get there. The second thing is I think they are going to create a landscape for Blue Eyes to be more successful than it is now. I know that sounds crazy, or like, why? The reason why I think that is because I'm pretty sure Konami knows how good of optics it is for Blue Eyes to be a playable deck. And it is also one of their best products that they've released in years. I mean, people are coming back to the game because that product has been released. I think they really want to lean into that. I think they want that deck to be competitively successful in a lot of different variations of it, not just Primite. I think they want that deck to be usable in many different fashions, so new players that are jumping back into the game can see that deck's success and go, time to get my butt to locals. Konami wants butts in seats. When a player comes to locals, that is a recurring customer. They've bought into the game. They're going to keep buying product to keep enjoying the game. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing. That sounds like a very, like, you know, business trying to get more customers. It's like, in this case, like, that's good. The Blue Eyes product is good. It's a great way to get more people into the game and playing. I think they want to capitalize on that success, as evidenced by the fact that not only are they printing Sage as an ulti in the current OTS, but Blue Eyes, the vanilla Blue Eyes, is getting an OTS ulti in the next OTS too, in the upcoming one. So they are currently future planning for people to be at locals playing Blue Eyes. The way that they're going to do that is by removing cards that currently exist in the format that make a harsh landscape for Blue Eyes, right? Some of you might know what I am alluding to, as you've seen me post about it before. Again, not copium. Anyway, so those are my two core tenets, right? They're not going to hit the Fiend Smith Ryzeal Malice cards directly because they need to sell them and reprint them because they are still marketable. And they're going to pave the way for Blue Eyes by removing cards that make the landscape for that deck harsh, right? And the third thing is, I think this list is going to emulate the April ban list, last year's April ban list, April 2024. This ban list is going to be small, and that's going to frustrate people because we have been in an environment where Ryzeal Detonator has been the dominating force of the metagame for months now, and people are going to be annoyed by this when they see how few hits happen to the actual best decks. But just when we look at April, like, Snake Eye was far and away the best thing you could be doing. Poplar recently got released. It was so clear that Snake Eye was like the best thing by a country mile, and they just didn't hit any Snake Eye cards. They hit Linkaribo, they hit Baron de Fleur, they hit, I think they also hit Borreload Savage, and they hit Anti-Spell. So I'm using that ban list as a type of template for what they're going to do here. I think they're going to hit the, like I said, the ancillary tools, the electrons that float around the nucleus of the atom that is the top of the metagame, instead of actually hitting the nucleus of the atom itself. Is the nucleus a cell? I don't know. Who knows? I haven't been in high school in years. I play this card game for money now. I didn't need to learn all that shit. All of those things being said, that's a lot of preamble, because I want you to kind of understand where I'm coming from with these predictions. First up, let's talk about Fiend Smith hits in terms of bans. I believe they're going to hit Moon of the Closed Heaven and also Evil Swarm Exciton. So the reason I'm grouping these together is because these are the most competitively viable generic extra deck bridges to the Fiend Smith cards. I don't think they're going to hit Engraver directly. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think a lot of people have suggested the limit to Fiend Smith Engraver, and there's just no way. I think that is just taking dollar bills, throwing it in a metal bucket, and lighting it on fire. They want to make money from Fiend Smith reprints, and there have been no Fiend Smith reprints yet. I just don't think they're going to directly hit a Fiend Smith card. So I feel the best way to hit the Fiend Smith engine is by removing the most popularly, viably played bridges in the extra deck, which are Moon and Exciton. And the reason I'm grouping Exciton in here is because if you banned Closed Moon, it would make no sense to leave Exciton legal, right? If their goal is to balance the Fiend Smith cards by lowering the ubiquitousness of that engine, you would need to ban Exciton as well. because you would basically be saying, well, all of the decks that aren't Ryzeal can't bridge into Fiend Smith, but we're still going to let the absolute best deck in the format do it. That would make no sense. So I think Konami, kind of like they did with Barone and Borreload Savage, you know, they took those two popular generic Omni Negates from the extra deck. I think they're going to do the same thing here, kind of evaluate this in the similar way, ban both Moon and Exciton, seeing as how these are the most typically played bridges to it. I understand there are more generic extra deck light Fiends that could be used to go into Fiendsmith stuff. If you want to make the rank 3 Melomedy Djinn to go into the Requiem, more power to you. Go ahead, goblins. I think that's fine. I think that's okay if we have goblins going into the Fiendsmith cards. Yeah, that's I'm not worried about that at all. So those are the first two. Next up, Abyss Dweller. Okay. This one's pretty obvious. If I had to pick gun to my head, which one of these are you 100% sure is going to happen? It's Dweller. It's well known at this point. Ryzeal Detonator plus Abyss Dweller on board is just so oppressive, and it's probably the biggest reason why Ryzeal is the top of the metagame right now. Obviously, there are other reasons too, but I think the combination of Detonator Dweller with Cross on board is just so unbelievable. Detonator makes it so you can't play from the field. It makes it so all continuous spells or field spells that are played as engine basically can't resolve because Detonator will just chain to pop them, and they need to remain face up on board in order to resolve properly. And then Dweller makes it so you can't play from the grave with anything. So the demand that is placed on a player to be able to play through those boards, it's way too much. You know, I still think Ryzeal is a fairer deck than a lot of other decks we've seen in the past few years. I think a Ryzeal board, no matter what Ryzeal board it is way more manageable than anything Snake Eye in any of its iterations has ever done. I don't know if that's a hot take at all. Ryzeal feels more fun to play against, but there are still things that are super frustrating about it. And Dweller, I feel, is the biggest thing. That card resolving makes it so you just, not being able to play on field or from grave, and having a thing negated on resolution via cross is just too much. It's too much, and Dweller, I feel, is the most egregious part of that board. So, and we're all well aware of this. Dweller has been printed a gadzillion times. It's a rarity collection card. It crops up over and over again. It's this stupid card that's just, turning off a lot of decks and a lot of engines, so it's just time for it to go. Get Dweller out of here. We're done with it. So far, I've talked about my Fiendsmith hits, which are Moon and Exciton. I've talked about my Ryzeal ban, which I believe is going to be Dweller. We got to talk about my Malice hit. Now, remember, I believe that their two core philosophies for this list are going to be, one, hitting Ryzeal Malice Fiendsmith decks without actually hitting named cards, and two, making the landscape more playable for Blue Eyes. Out of all the non-engine that Blue Eyes could play into, there's really only one non-engine card that Blue Eyes barely functions against. It's Dimension Shifter. Okay, I get it. We have Stockholm Syndrome. We just think that they want this card legal. I know. And I know it sounds like the comments are going to be copium. You've said this before. I know. I will make this solemn vow, this concrete promise to you. If they don't ban it on this list, I will never call that they're going to hit it again. Honestly, my prediction is that it's going to end up on here somewhere. For God's sake, a semi-limit even, please. But just hear me out on this. When Shifter resolves, there are so many decks that cannot appropriately function. Blue Eyes is a big one. Maiden cannot activate its effect at all under Shifter. And Maiden is a core part of the engine. It's not like it discards. It has to send to grave for cost to be able to place True Light. Whenever Shifter resolves, the new darling of the format that they are trying to push, as evidenced by 2 OTS alties in a row, even the namesake vanilla they are making an ulti in the upcoming OTS. So not an OTS that has been released, one that they are trying to push and get people to go to locals for, right? An OTS tournament pack is like an advertisement. It's like, go to locals so you have the chance to pull these cool cards, and the ultis are super marketable. They are trying to market Blue Eyes, the vanilla, as a chase that you could get when attending your local OTS's tournaments, okay? They want this deck to be playable at all levels of tournament play. They want butts in seats. And the thing that's going to disincentivize Blue Eyes from being played is the deck being frustrating in the environment. Malice is getting a ton of support with the new Addicnister stuff coming up in the upcoming core set. Alliance Insight, I believe is his name. So that deck is going to get even better, and it's a deck that plays Shifter. They want Blue Eyes to be competitively viable. They want it to be a top 3 linchpin of the metagame. And the way that you do that is by removing the most frustrating card that turns off the core part of its engine. You have to get rid of Shifter if you want to follow through with your goal of Blue Eyes being a marketable product throughout the entire year of 2025, which I believe they do. I hope that doesn't come off as tinfoil hat conspiracy, because it really just makes business sense to hit Shifter right now, okay? We could have said it, I don't know, you could have made that claim before, but like during Snake Eye format and U-Bell format, I really feel like Shifter was used as something to sort of artificially add more slices to the pie charts, you know, just to make it so other decks were more playable in that environment. Look, I don't agree with that philosophy, but I think we all kind of get the idea that Konami does that. They leave in these sort of very unbalanced cards to diversify the metagame. I hope that doesn't sound tinfoil hat. Maybe it does to you. Maybe you're skeptical because we've been dealing with this frustrating ass card for, I don't know, years now. But honest to God, I really believe that it is going to be Shifter's time in this one. I am making a harsh prediction. And again, I promise you, if it doesn't happen this time, I'll never predict it again. Because after this, I don't know. Like, I don't even know. I just don't understand how you could possibly keep Shifter legal in this environment. Like, if Malice gets all the support and gets to keep Shifter, like, I don't know. It would be beyond me. I just wouldn't understand. Anyway, now that I've spoken like a crazed lunatic about Dimension Shifter, let's talk about my next ban and my last ban, Artifact Lancia. So I know I was just talking about how strong Malice is going to be, and I am banning its best counter. Malice has a ton of stuff that is hate towards it. Fua is good against it. Meowls is good against it. Chaos Hunter is good against it. I mean, yes, there are things they can do to out the Chaos Hunter, but it is still a strong card versus Malice. There's just a ton of stuff. There's even like Burial from a Different Dimension that can be played. There's like Bestial Regained that can be set up against it. Like there's just, Malice does have so many counters that aren't just like auto win buttons versus it. You know, I think that this style of gameplay that is being utilized now, where it's just there are these silver bullets that just make the game cease to function. I don't know if Konami's really okay with this anymore. And we all saw the statistic at YCS, I believe it was YCS Birmingham, where it was the data chart of 94% of decks were citing Artifact Lancia. That's so egregious. I don't think they like that. And I'm using last year's April ban list to sort of clue myself into that. If you remember, they limited anti-spell and banned summon limit on that ban list. And I think that really falls in line with the sort of philosophy that I voiced at the beginning. They want to indirectly hit all of the top decks so they can sell them with reprints, and they want to remove these frustrating cards that sort of revolve throughout the metagame that make it just not fun to play. And regardless of how you feel about Malice games where Lancia resolves aren't fun. They aren't. They just, your Malice opponent goes, well, I can't play. And then, like, that's just not fun gameplay. I don't think they want to facilitate that type of gameplay anymore, as evidenced by how they got rid of anti-spell. They bumped it down to 1 and then banned summon limit during last year's April list. I think they're going to continue that trend. I do. I don't know. I think it's nice to see that they are looking at side deck cards, and with Artifact Lancia being at a rate of 94%, I feel comfortable making the prediction that they're going to take action against this card, because now it's even going to be searchable, right? Like 7th Tachyon searches Lancia. There's just no way. Sorry. Like that card, I am pretty confident Lancia is going to get banned. You could argue that the actual prediction is that it would be limited, because with 7th Tachyon searching it, it's mainly like a going first side card. But even then, like, that feels like crap, right? If they limited it, it would just be like, well, we're going to make it so people have an auto win button going first against Malice. You know, that sucks. I don't think that's something that they want. Okay. That's it for the bans. When we get done with the limits, heads up, I only have bans and limits on here. I'm not really talking about things that are coming off the list. I don't think those predictions are very valuable. What am I going to do? I'm going to ban, like, ooh, maybe this is the one they're going to unban Dryden. Like, I don't know. It's not fun for me. I don't even know if it's fun for the viewer, but whatever. I'm just going to do stuff that they're hitting. Limits. Only have 3 cards here. Again, small list, just like last year's April list was. I think this is going to be very slight, which I know is going to probably frustrate some people, but start of the year. There's a lot of format developments that need to happen before we get to the later formats of 2025. First up, Crossout Designator. I hate this card. I am on record stating that I think Crossout, Called By, and Talents should all be hit more than they are now. I think Called By the Grave should be banned. I think Crossout should be, honestly, I think that card should be banned too. Talents I kind of like as a one of, which we'll talk about when we get to Talents. That list, that's also on here. Just, the reason I think Crossout is that it's time to go is that this is a huge Ryzeal card. The topping lists of Ryzeal right now are maining this card, or quite frequently they're maining this card, and it is giving Ryzeal such a crazy edge for, like, very undeserved. As the format develops, people are seeing what counters are being played into Ryzeal, and they're including things like, oh, we're gonna put in the one of Metaltronus, we'll put in the one of Droll, we'll put in the Ogre, we'll put in Talents, you know, and we're doing these so that we have them as Crossout targets. Crossout being a card that says negate anything, that sucks. I'm sorry, that's just not fun. I understand it doesn't actually negate anything. You have to include the card in your main deck, but it just sort of, it makes the best decks better, right? Rogue decks don't really benefit from Crossout like meta decks do, because if you are a deck like Ryzeal in its current position, you are seeing trends of people maining Metaltronus, you know, maining other forms of non-engine specifically to beat the detonator. So you as the meta deck can go, well, I'm going to throw in Crossout and I'm going to slot in all these one-ofs, because I am in the position as the meta deck where I can see how the format develops, where I can include these cards and Crossout to beat these cards that are specifically put in for countering me. I think it sucks that Crossout is the type of card that allows the best deck to further the gap between itself and the other decks that are trying to compete with it, right? I think teching for the best deck is very cool, and Crossout being the type of card that allows you to anti-tech for the techs that are played against you as the best deck sucks. It makes it so when you go first, it is even more frustrating because there is just a card that is there to negate everything that they could draw. I think Crossout's very unbalanced. I think hand traps should resolve. We are just in a part of the game right now where the 1-for-1 hand traps really need to be meaningful. Like an Ash Blossom or an Imperm on a duo drive, that resolving is so important. And Crossout being the type of card that just, you can't play around it, right? If they have Crossout, they just get to pick and choose which interaction as the going first player they see as most important for their combo to resolve, and they just get to turn off whatever interaction you use. So you're basically always starting with a 4-card hand if your opponent has open Crossout. I hope that makes sense. I know a lot of people have this belief that Crossout and Called By need to exist to beat hand traps because rogue decks need them. I'm sorry. The meta deck is always going to use Crossout way better than your deck is ever going to be able to. If your deck loses to an Ash Blossom or a Veiler on a certain combo piece, the way you should be trying to build around that is with extenders. There are probably things in your engine that you could be playing to play through those 1-for-1 hand traps, right? You just can't depend on crossout being legal, because all it is doing is it is bloating going first in such a way where it is massively unbalanced. The card has to get hit, and I think Konami sees that too. The fact that Ryzeal is so instrumentally above the field, and, well, performing above the field, I should say, I think crossout plays a big part in that. We're seeing a lot of 3 of main deck crossout right now, and just there's a lot of trends of this card, like, being played to beat the text for it. I could rant about crossout for forever. I hate this card. It should just be banned, but I really think that they're going to limit it. If you limit crossout, it disincentivizes it being used as a linchpin to beat all of the techs that are played against you like it is being right now. If you're playing Ryzeal and you only have 1 crossout, you're not going to tech in a single copy of Metal Tronus for the 1 crossout you have. I mean, maybe you would, but it would at least be worse, right? Which is something. Next up, Talent. Triple Tactics Talent, to be precise. I think this card is going to go to 1. Again, it is just another card like Crossout, where if you draw it going first, you are so massively favored because you're punishing your opponent for interacting with you. Now, Talent is at least a little bit better because the hand trap that is being used against you is resolving. So if you are summoning a Duo Drive and your opponent Effect Veilers the Duo Drive, Talent doesn't stop that Effect Veiler from resolving properly. Your Duo Drive is still negated, and that matters, but the Talent, if there are extenders to play past that hand trap on Duo Drive, it can be super, super overwhelming to have a hand rip on top of continuing to do your combo, right? We just need to balance going first. And the cards that lead to the unbalanced nature of going first right now are cards like Crossout, Called By, and Triple Tactics Talent. Going second has to be more balanced, and I know a lot of people don't like Mulcharmies, but I'm sorry, they do balance the going second and going first problem. Yes, I understand that there are decks that are hurt by the Charmies more than other decks are. That is a sacrifice that I think I and a lot of other people and Konami are willing to make. And I think that, Talent is a part of the problem in terms of the unbalanced nature of going first right now in Yu-Gi-Oh! These types of cards, they need to get hit to their lowest degree. A lot of people think Talent should be banned, and there is probably some argument for that too, just like I said with Crossout as well. I think Talent is going to stay at 1 because I like Talent when it's used as a board breaker, which you can do with Thrust, right? It is way better to see Talent in your opening hand than it is to see Thrust in your opening hand. Because, yeah, you could Thrust for, like, an Engine Trap or an Imperm, or if you're including, like, a one-of really strong normal trap, like Karma Cannon or D-Barrier or something like that. Yeah, Thrust is still good, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as actually seeing Talent in your opening hand. Yeah, I think this card, as a board breaker, is much more fun than as, like, a going first hand rip thing to let you, like, keep comboing and punish your opponent for interacting with you. I think using it in that board breaker sense is neat because if you are trying to push through a board, with Talent in hand, you get to evaluate, like, what is the biggest threat on board? Is it the ultimate spirit that they have? Can my hand potentially play through the ultimate spirit, but I need to look at their hand to see if they have a piece of non-engine that could stop me from pushing into their board, right? It allows you to sort of modulate that. Or you can go, I think I can push through the board and the hand if I had just a couple more pieces of my engine. You can draw too, Talent is a cool card. I actually really like it a lot. I just don't like what it does when going first. So I think limiting it and then having Thrust being able to be played as your additional copies of Talent going second is smart in terms of balancing the card. I think that's where they're going to go. So, Talent's 1. And last but not least for the limits, Bonfire. I think Bonfire is up to go. I think this card's had its time. This is the type of Ryzeal hit that I think is smart. The strongest cards of the engine are the ones that are searched off of Bonfire. So, makes sense to limit it. Just cut down the number of no-cost searches for the Ryzeal engine that there is. Forces them to play 7th Tachyon, and 7th Tachyon is much worse for the deck, right? I'm pretty sure 7th Tachyon locks into Xyz. So, like, A goal that I think that they're going to have with the Fiend Smith cards is limiting the ubiquitousness of them, removing a lot of their potential to be played in the format in a lot of decks, just like limiting that. So I think by limiting Bonfire and forcing Ryzeal to move into the 7th Tachyon route in order to stay consistent, it makes it so the Fiend Smith variant of Ryzeal is played much less than it is played now, if even at all. So, Bonfire, I think that sucker's going to 1. And I said last but not least, because I'm looking at my notes here and I forgot to include, I also think Allure of Darkness is going to get limited. Allure of Darkness can be a pretty potent extender for Malice, so I think it might have its time. It could be, that's kind of a, I don't know. If there is one pick on this list that I'm most iffy about, it's that one. I don't know. Like, I think a lot of Malice lists are moving away from Allure of Darkness in favor of things like a heavier Bestial package, but I can still see it. It can be really imposing for Malice to have Allure as an extender, because like they're drawing cards and they're banishing to further their engine. Like, that's crazy. So I don't know. Limiting Allure is sort of a pie in the sky one for me, but I think it could happen. So let's talk about the things that I don't think they're going to do that people have said is going to happen. First and foremost, limit Engraver. Talked about this before. I just don't see it. There's no way, okay? In my mind, at least. People talk about this being a hit that's possible. They sort of pair the limit Engraver alongside the DDD Wave King High Caesar ban. I think banning Caesar and no other hits is something that there is potential for with the Fiend Smith cards. It makes the Fiend Smith cards much more susceptible into Nibiru, and if they still want those cards to be heavily represented within the metagame, that would make sense if all they did is just ban Caesar, so they make it so the only extra deck card that you're making off of the Fiend Smith line is Desiree rather than Caesar. I don't think that is going to happen because, one, like I said, I don't think they're going to hit Engraver, and two, DDD has support on the way. They're in the Battles of Legend set. I think that's coming up. It's the one with like the Dragon Maids and Orchist. I'm pretty sure the DDD cards are in there. So that's a little speculative as to a reason why they wouldn't hit Wave King or Wave High King. I don't know. I just that is something that's like a mark against it for me. And also, I didn't put that they're limiting Druisworm or banning Magnema on here, okay? The reason for that is I believe that those cards are going to be a slam dunk inclusion in Rarity 4. I think Druisworm is a huge selling point for that upcoming set, so I don't think they're going to limit Druisworm yet. Now, that being said, I mentioned that they want to pave more of a way of Blue Eyes to be played in the metagame. I think they want that deck to be more represented than it is currently. Bestials aren't a silver bullet answer versus Blue Eyes, but with them being so highly represented in the metagame, they are somewhat a problem for the deck, right? Like, they're good against Blue Eyes because banishing Maiden is strong, but it's not like great like Shifter is, you know what I mean? I think the way you hit the Bestials without hitting the Bestials is by making it so the engine that they are most included against, which is Fiend Smith, making it so that engine is less represented in the metagame, right? If you ban Moon and Exciton to make it so a lot less decks can bridge into Fiend Smith cards, that is going to disincentivize people from including packages of 5 to 8 Bestials in their deck to beat Fiend Smith cards, right? Less decks can play Fiend Smith, therefore less decks need to play Bestials, which will in part make the field a little bit more cohesive to Blue Eyes being represented in the top 3 decks, right? And I don't think you include Bestials specifically to beat Blue Eyes as you would specifically to beat Fiend Smith, okay? I don't think Engraver is going to be limited. I don't think Wave High King Caesar is going to be banned. And I don't think Magnemut's going to be banned. I don't think Druisworm is going to be limited. But the biggest thing that has me thinking that they're not going to be banning Magnema or limiting Druisworm is that the Bestial engine is a total shoe-in for Rarity 4. Just like I think the Kashtira cards are. I don't know why you would want to hit Kashtira right now. The TCG team does do pretty late hits from time to time. We've seen it happen with cards like Scythe or whatever. But I don't think a hit to Unicorn is going to happen at all because, again, I think the, Unicorn and, like, the Bestial Engine with Lubellion and Druisworm, I think those are shoo-ins for Rarity 4. So, don't think those cards are going to get hit. Missed one. Let's go back to the bans really quick. I need to put Mermail on here somewhere. I'm sorry. I need to put Mermail on here somewhere. It has gotten to the point where we can't ignore it. We can't ignore Mermail anymore. The deck is very, very strong. It is a solid metagame contender. Solid metagame contender. Eventually, when you have a medical problem, you got to go to the doctor at some point. You know, if your tooth is sore for 2 weeks, you end up going to the dentist, okay? You just can't let it get worse. I think Mermail is there. Especially if we ban, like, Shifter and Dweller. I think we have to do something about the deck. Now, here's the problem. How do you hit this deck? The April list is small. The April list, in terms of the things that move to 1 or 0, is notoriously small. I don't know what to do with Mermail. I think what they're going to do, and the thing that I agree with in terms of its balancing, is ban Minstrel. By banning Minstrel, you cut off the early hand rip lines that people go for, and post-siding, we've seen people go to 3 copies of Minstrel so that they have it as much as possible to hand rip as early as possible. Minstrel is also extremely searchable, and it is the reason that the statue lines are viable. If you look up any, like, 1-card combo to summon the Water Barrier statue, Minstrel is a very integral part of that, because, like, that gets a banish card, which allows the combo to keep going, just whatever. I'm not going to do the whole Dueling Book replay right now, but Minstrel is the reason why the barrier statue lines are possible. And I hate Minstrel. Like, Minstrel makes it so, like, it rips Droll out of your hand. It rips necessary pieces of non-engine that could actually stop the Mermail combo. Minstrel just rips those out. It just makes it so frustrating. Like, hand knowledge is crazy. And the Konami TCG team, one of the most common philosophies and through lines that they have for their ban lists is hand rips. They hate hand rips and FTKs. They hate them. So I think Mermail is going to find itself getting hit on this list. And I think the ban is going to be Minstrel. I don't think it's going to be Toad. I don't think it's going to be Bahamut Shark. I don't think it's going to be Moulin Glacia. I mean, I guess it could be Moulin Glacia instead of Minstrel. But that would kind of frustrate me because the Moulin Glacia line is like, well, that's what I don't know. It feels like what it ends on, and it feels like Minstrel has resolved at that point anyway. I don't know. I don't know where to hit this deck. I think the hit is Minstrel because it's like a common that's been reprinted as a common, and there's just it's not like a selling point card. Hopefully they hit it somehow. I don't know. Maybe they have a better R&D designer than me that's going to be able to fit in like a banger Mermail hit on here in a small list like the April list, but I don't know. If you Again, it's a prediction. That's the one I'm predicting is the Minstrel ban. So I have 6 bans and 4 limits. That is 10 hits, and I don't know. That's a lot. That's a lot for an April list, but I just think there are so many things that align with Konami's philosophy for what they would want to do to balance a format like this. I just don't think you can do less than that. Maybe the Allure hit is too much, and it should be 6 bans and 3 limits, but damn, 6 bans is a lot of bans for an April list. But that's what I'm calling. To recap, bans: Moon, Exciton, Abyss Dweller, D-Shifter, Lancia, Minstrel. Limits: Crossout, Talent, Bonfire, Allure of Darkness. That's what I'm calling. We'll see what happens. At the end of the day, I still have a lot of fun with this format. I've been having a blast. I recently won a box tournament. I ended up getting a collector's rare Mulcharmy Perulia, you know. I'm living life. I'm playing my fun Mimighoul shark shit and succeeding in my own area. I'm still having a blast. I know I'm not like topping YCSs or anything, but this format has still been super engaging for me. A much better improvement than pretty much any format in 2024. So even though I've complained a lot about cards that need to get hit, I'm having a blast still. So I guess this ban list doesn't need to be as big as I think it's going to be. I just hope that it is, because like cards like Crossout are just such a bummer to play against anytime they hit the playmat. So all in all, let's hope for the best. I'm going to love Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to love Ryzeal and Malice format. Even after this, whatever happens, happens. And I hope you feel the same too. So, peace out. I'll see you in the next one.